Welcome back guys, and today we are looking at another way that Game of Thrones could end. The thing is, there are so many different ways this series could end, with the addition of the curveball in Season 8 Episode 3. Daenerys has been advised against burning King's Landing to the ground by a few different people now, namely this scene here with Tyrion and Jon.
Build a world that's different from the shit one they've always known. But if you use them to melt castles and burn cities, you're not different. You're just more of the same.
So let's say they capture King's Landing, and instead of murdering Cersei, she's put to trial. Obviously with the zombie mountain, Robert Strong, she will demand it's by combat. Depending who is queen, I personally think Daenerys will die and it will be Sansa and possibly Tyrion as her husband or the Hand. Nobody in their right mind would go up against the mountain in 1v1 combat. Especially now he's a great unkillable zombie. So I could see someone like Tyrion allow the trial by combat but make it a trial by 7, which has only happened a couple of times before. Now if you're unsure what a trial by 7 is, it's basically the same thing but with 7 people. Now Tommen did rule out trial by combat if you remember, but nobody from Sansa's side was there to see that, so he wouldn't be aware of it, and it's possible it's already been reinstated by Cersei. I think before going into who would fight for the crown and which heroes we'd see, we should quickly go through who would fight for Cersei. So obviously the mountain's the main one. This is the only way we're going to get Cleganebowl. I think possibly then if Euron survives, he could fight in it, but I don't see him surviving. But I guess if they're not going to burn down King's Landing and kill everyone, there's a chance he survives as well. So we could see the mountain, Euron and the rest of the Kingsguard probably. But the important one. So who fights for the crown under Sansa? Most theories tend to suggest the fighter will represent each god, since there are 7 gods and 7 fighters. And with how this series ties together things and the subtleness of it, I think that's probably right. There's also the slight chance we see Bronn fight for Cersei. I think that would be a way to sort of even out the numbers, so we would have named characters on either side. I would absolutely hate to see it because he's one of my favourite characters, but for argument's sake I'm not going to include him in the 7 fighting for the crown, just because he could be on Cersei's team, and I don't know if he would be in the fight anyway. Before we take a look at the characters, we should take a look at the gods and what they represent. So we've got the Father, which represents divine justice and judges the souls of the dead. The Mother represents mercy, peace, fertility and childbirth. She is sometimes referred to as the strength of women. The Maiden represents purity, innocence, love and beauty. The Crone. The Crone represents wisdom and foresight. The Warrior represents strength and courage in battle. The Smith represents creation and craftsmanship. The Stranger represents death and the unknown. So the first of the gods, we've got the Father. Now obviously Jaime and Cersei have had children, so I think he would definitely be the father. The Father represents justice and judges the souls of the dead. The mountain is dead. Jaime is going to be dealing justice to Cersei. I think this one is absolutely perfect, and if it goes down this route, is set in stone. Then the Mother. This one was kind of tough. I've taken it a different way, so it's going to be somebody fighting for the Mother of Dragons. So somebody fighting on Daenerys' behalf. Now, before Jorah died, I would have said it would be him, but since he's now dead, I think possibly because her army's sort of gone now after the Battle of Winterfell, we could see her call the Second Sons and recruit them to fight, which means we could see Daario Naharis again, and I think he will probably be the one to fight for the Mother, and possibly even die, because I think if this does happen, we will have some big deaths. Next up we've got the Maiden, and this one's fairly simple, Brienne of Tarth. The Maiden fits Brienne perfectly because the Maiden represents love, which I think is developing between her and Jaime and will be an incredible ending to both their characters. Jaime has come one hell of a way since the beginning, and I think this would be kind of a nice way to tie those two characters together, but also deal with Cersei. Possibly the only fighter that could take on the mountain, possibly the best fighter in the kingdoms at the minute that's alive. I don't think we would see her die because she's become sort of a fan favourite, but I do think we would see her in any fight defending Sansa's honour. Then we've got the Warrior, which I think obviously is going to be the Hound. I think possibly he could die to the mountain, but I think he has to be in this fight. Everybody's been so hyped about Cleganebowl, and I think now that they're out of the realms of what George R.R. Martin has written, There will be some more fan service. I mean, you could tell from the last episode there was a ton of fan service. So I think we will get more. Everyone wants Cleganebowl, so they're going to deliver it. And this is how it will go down. Like I say, I think possibly the Mountain would get the better of the Hound. The Hound's story arc sort of ran out for me, so we could definitely see that happen. Now the Crone, I found this one kind of tough. This represents sort of wisdom, and the only character I could think of that's sort of a good fighter, is kind of clever, obviously not Tyrion, it's going to be Pod. He's the only one I can think of that has been training and fighting and would fill this slot. I think with all the scenes we've seen of him, obviously in the Battle of Winterfell and before that training with Brienne, he's definitely building up to something, and I think this could possibly be it. I think the Stranger is the easiest to predict by a mile. It's going to be no one else, it's going to be Arya Stark. I know what I said about Brienne, but I think Arya is probably the best swordsman, or definitely best fighter in the kingdoms. Then the last one is the Smith, and I think there's only one person that could fill that, and that's Gendry. He's said numerous times he considers himself a fighter, he's gaining more and more experience with battles. I think, obviously with Arya fighting in it as well, he's going to want to fight, and I think with that Warhammer he'd be a great addition. So these are probably my 7, but if you have any ideas who would possibly fit better, or where you would have them, or which god they would represent, or anything like that, drop them in the comments below. But also if you have any theories on how it could end, let me know, I'll be more than happy to look into them and do a video on that. So far obviously I've done the Littlefinger theory, and now I've got the trial by 7. Let me know which you'd prefer, but that's all for this episode, and until next time.